Well, hello there. This is Dennis, and this is the April tape. And if you've noticed, you've gotten 2 tapes in this particular mailing out. The reason for this is basically, like I had mentioned on the other tape, starting the business and making sure that everything was right and proper. Took us a little time, took us a little effort, but we've definitely got it all put together now. The spontaneity of the monthly tapes, I had found that I was getting myself locked into this scenario where you have to do it in such and such a week in order to get the tapes out, and give it to them once a month, give it to them at the end of the month. And all of a sudden I realized that in my attempt to make sure that everybody got their tapes on a specific day, I lost a little bit of the continuity in the material. And the reason that I'm doing the tape today is very simple. It's time to do it. I feel it, I know it, I sense it, and so I'm going to share this tape also with you. A lot has been going on. I mean, as in a tremendous amount. The first tape was just sort of a relaxating one. They're dealing with the fire and the element and how it worked. In this tape, I'd like to deal with attachments, because as I have been putting the tape thing together, I've noticed that within this work there was a little bit of struggle, and me holding on to what I felt was the way that it should be and how it should be, and then there was a lot of holding on to how come it's not working, how come people are getting tapes that weren't working, how come, and because you hear me speak a lot on the fact that it is never really outside of yourself. As I look at the tape business and see what is going on with it and why all of the difficulties, basically we were supposed to have the flyer covers almost a month ago, the flyer that sets into the album cover, and everybody was doing their thing, especially when it was supposed to be done, and yet it still didn't seem to come together. And so there is this thing called timing out there in the universe, and even when we create a picture being, well, this is what I really want, therefore it should really go this way, and why isn't it? We have a tendency to get into confusion about what it is that we really would like and what it is that is really happening for us, and they are somewhat 2 different things. We get into a position, or I have been getting into a position, where I feel that, if I'm truly God, then it should be manifesting when I need it to, especially if it appears to be something that was intuitively given to me. These tapes was basically intuitively given to me. It was designed basically to take some of the stress off of myself as a personality and allow more of a teaching tool to go out to individuals, so I was still in contact with everybody and still basically putting the message across that you are God, stay with that understanding, keep working with that understanding, and when it begins to look as if it is not coming down to the timetable that we have intuitively thought that we were picking up, sometimes we have to even take a look at, well, what is divinely God inspired and what is inspired by man's own concept. What I mean by this is the tapes were inspired. I came up on the mountain and it was the time. The energy went through me, it went through the biological clock, and just like you feel that you have a great insight, a spiritually inclined insight, and you give it truth, and you go to make this insight work. I find that sometimes we discover an attachment within our hurried nature. There is okay, let's produce it now, let's get it done, let's get it happening, and we forget that there are other people on the planet, other circumstances on the planet, other conditions on the planet that also have as much energy behind them as ours. I've heard this thing about patience off and on forever. And as a personality, I really thought I had it down. I could sit back and just relax. certain things weren't happening the way that they should be, I would just go, okay, fine. I'd sit back and I'd relax. But then I would notice that if I did have a personal take on it, in other words, I felt that, hey, it should have been happening, I get sort of a personality push. Like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. And then I notice that if I push, part of the flow seems to ease up. It doesn't seem to be there as readily as it was before. If I get scattered in my push, I find that it takes just even a little longer. And so the truth is, I am still getting what I am creating. I am creating a little bit of resistance, then I create a little bit of a push, then I create a little bit of resentment, and then occasionally, being a person like everybody else, I yell. I yell at Jessica, I yell at my printer, I yell at the person who is supposed to be setting the material up, and I say, hey, I'm creating, I'm pushing. How come this isn't working? And then I find myself getting frustrated, not with them, but with myself, because I know it's never outside of myself. I know that they couldn't have done it any faster. I know that the printer couldn't have gotten the paper any quicker because he had to order it from somebody else, and there are a lot of things involved with the process. For myself, sometimes I think that as this creative being, I should have it immediately, boom, 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 and things create themselves. I find that the planet sometimes doesn't have the same ability to manifest as fast as my thought is. In evolution, the manifested world is taking a little different approach. And sometimes I forget I'm looking for my instantaneous response as a God being. But I also have noticed that there are other God beings and other God places and other God things on the planet that I have to take into consideration that sometimes I don't take into consideration. This is the learning of myself of patience. Patience to sit back and relax and watch the creation as it starts to manifest. And then what I begin to watch is that the perfection of all of the synchronicity of the Father. In other words, there was some beauty in the tape not getting sent out at the end of last month, and the beauty was I couldn't have sent it anyhow because the printer, who was supposed to have everything done, didn't get the paper on time, the printing machine broke down, and so within my frustration, I learned about myself. I learned that, hey, Dennis, you were frustrated. You didn't have to be, because truly the paper and this and that couldn't have come any sooner, because the individuals who naturally received some of your disapproval because it wasn't done on time, they needed to grow from something, from perhaps not a word of complimentary, but a word of persistence as to why isn't this happening, which allowed them to grow in their specific world. The plus side of a little bit of my frustration is that, hey, there are plus things. I was able to send out 2 tapes to you. I was able to share this lesson, which is a real good lesson in patience, how to not buy into frustration, but how to stay within the actual flow, knowing that you are not the only one creating. And as you create, there is a flow within the universe. There is a sharing within the universe. There is a synchronicity within the universe. There is a patience within the universe. And there is a wanting of the totality to share with you within that divine perfection a little more knowledge, a little more of a caring. When I let go of the struggle, I began to immediately realize that, hey, I'm going to produce this tape, and it was the actual only time that I had to produce it, because I would be on the road for the next month solid, and so therefore the actual doing of the tape up here on top of the mountain was perfect, because the air is perfect now, the flow is perfect now. There has been a completing within the changing of the energy that is down there on the planet. There is so much going on, and therefore I'm able to share even more beauty and more knowledge and more understanding within this particular tape. Patience also began to show me that, hey, it's economically beautiful to be patient and to kind of relax. I'm able to mail 2 tapes out, which is saving me a little finances. As one aspect, I don't have to send covers, I don't have to send this, I can actually send 2 in one time. There will be a glow, there will be a feeling and knowing that, oh wow, I've got this extra tape when it comes time to listen to it. And it will naturally be played in the perfect time for you. Not everybody grabs the tape and immediately puts out what is going on. They sometimes don't get to listen to this tape for a week or 2, and so it then reaches you in the perfect, positive flow of patience, which is kind of a beautiful thing. It all works out because people who are dealing with patience out there in the field going, where is my tape? Now get to have the backup tape on patience, and we'll begin to see, as I did, the beauty of the flow. I have been teaching for years, and the one thing that most of you have learned from me is that I am a here and now individual. And because I have been dealing exclusively within this last month of time and energy and patience, it is totally apropos that I finally let go of the fact that the tapes are going to come out at a certain time during the month. The tapes will come out when it is perfect for me, and in relationship to you, that will be perfect for you because you will be ready for the exact moment to receive them. Sort of like you are ready for the exact moment of this tape on patience, early, before the month of April is actually done. The patience of the beauty is that you really do get to see the synchronicity of the universe opposed to the synchronicity of the I. I thought I had it so clear that I was all ready to produce it at a given time because I knew what I was supposed to be doing. I tried to get it to fit in, and I found that I, working as an individual, was not quite in the flow with the rest of the I, the planet, the patient one waiting for the perfect synchronicity within the moment. And so once again I found that my patience and that my understanding had a lot to be desired, and when the I shifted into the personality, the I could therefore take a good look at the rest of the world and see that it also had the whole rest of the planet to flow in with, not just its own personal scenario. I am pleased to report that the timing of the planet and the timing of this tape is absolutely perfect, and I have been also dealing with other things. This particular lesson has been so good to me, and I would really like you to take a good look at what, as a God being, you are manifesting instantly. And then some of the things that we are not manifesting instantly, and we need to take a good look at that because this is what this tape is really about. We are, in our present situation, sometimes looking for the perfect job. I produced a thought, I am making it happen, why don't I have the perfect job right now? What is my withhold? What is wrong with me? There is nothing wrong with you. Just because you do not instantaneously get what you are saying, don't always go, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with my creation? Don't go to the negative aspect. Don't go to the positive aspect either. Just go to the aspect. Well, if I am not getting it completely, that means that there are other situations, there are other habits, there are other circumstances that I haven't truly gotten a good handle on yet. And therefore, rather than producing a forced creation so that I can have the manifestation instantly, I have learned to not force the creation, but have learned to take all of the things that are not happening for me and grow from that. In other words, yes, it is never outside of yourself. Therefore, is my communication with the individual who I am doing my layouts perhaps with clear enough? Am I taking full responsibility with that, or am I shifting my responsibility over to her? Am I not being responsible for my own self? I found that I wasn't quite being responsible for my own self. Therefore, within the lesson of patience, I started to get the understanding that I don't have a clear picture of what it is that I want, and therefore neither does anyone else. Therefore, the universe can't give me the exact thing that I wish, the detailed picture that I want. It has also been holding back so that it knows that I don't really settle for an incomplete picture, and therefore it's not going to give me my completed picture until it realizes I have chosen to look at all of the things that would have slowed the creation down, so that I can get an actual picture of what it is that my habits were that wouldn't allow me to give me the instantaneous complete picture of what I demanded immediately. In other words, the tape had to be out at a certain date. By relaxing on myself and getting off my back that the Spirit should manifest it instantaneously, I sat back and got a better picture of some of and the old concepts that set within my head and that were actually something physical, that was an old picture. Dennis, if you rush and do this too quickly, we are going to give you this old concept because it is an old habit that we would wish you to look at so that your patience doesn't have to have something instantaneous, that your patience can be something that would last for a month. The tape may not go out on time, but in the process you are learning from an old concept as to why the tape did not go out. You are learning an old habit that you can plainly see now, so that in the future, when you create, the old habit of, say, whatever, that could not have quite made the picture turn out right. In other words, you wouldn't have been able to give this tape because you wouldn't have had the thought that, well, the tape would have come out at the end of the month, and you would have missed this opportunity to share one of the greatest little lessons here that I'm giving you on patience. When we discover that God, as God, we can instantly manifest something, we do. And then if you notice, sometimes you may have gotten, no, you did get what you had asked for, but what you had asked for also brought along with it a lot of things that you didn't necessarily want. And, now this is important, you would have had to deal with it right then and there because you created a perfect picture, or what you thought was the perfect picture, but along with it came a lot of other things that you didn't like, but they were there because you created this picture. Now, within this circumstance, I've noticed that my patience was a little struggling, and that I couldn't get what I wanted immediately. And so instead of going into blame and kicking and screaming, which I did for a split second, actually for a little length of time, I am no different than anybody else, and so I didn't yell, but I did kind of dump some energy onto the printer. I did dump some energy onto my layout person. I did drop a lot of energy onto Jessica as to why these things weren't done. And I got to see myself. I got to see habits that I would have gotten if they were instantly manifested. But because the universe said, Dennis, you really want to see how you're growing, so we're not going to instantly give you this picture of the tapes going out on time like you wanted. We're going to stall it down so that you can bring up all of the resentment pictures that you have had in the past as to why things shouldn't flow in a certain time length. And you're going to get a look at the patterns from these old concepts so that before you get what it is that you wanted, you're going to be able to eliminate the habits of some of the things that you would have gotten if we would have given you the picture of your thought of perfection and your thought of the perfect thing of getting the tapes out sooner. And then you would have seen these pictures of things that wouldn't have been working for you, and instead of dealing with them then, we're going to let you deal with them now before we give you the picture so that you can start breaking habits and old concepts of things that within the past would have given you, sure, the perfection that you wanted by getting the tapes out at the end of the month, but you would have gotten backlashes from, say, perhaps not good enough equipment again running, or the picture that was printed wasn't quite right. And so instead of getting all of those things instantly and then going, why didn't the picture come right? This time we've decided to stall the picture, give you the insights into yourself as to why the things weren't going to come around instantaneously, so you could work out the old concepts, so that when the pattern or the perfection of what you really wanted got to you, it got to you in the exact way that you wanted it, with pure, easy perfection. And the habits that sometimes we get after the things that we get may not quite have been the way that we wanted them. You got those things before the actual picture of the things that you may not have wanted within the actual manifested picture. This is a chance for you to see the concepts in your head that produce an undesirable picture of what it was that you pictured, along with the not-so-friendly things that came with the picture that you had pictured. Now, I know that I'm repeating myself a little bit here, but if it's not understandable to you on the first runs, flip this tape back and listen to what I'm saying again. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes we manifest things instantaneously because we're God and we demand it. And along with this thing that we get, we also get the opposite side of the coin that we may not have been set for, because they are old concepts and pictures of patterns from the past that would associate with our new picture of perfection. With this new period of perfection, or this new picture of perfection, as you know, a lot of times you get garbage that wasn't in your picture. What I'm saying is that sometimes if we take our time and be patient, we will get those things that we didn't want that would have come with the picture that we created before the picture actually comes. And because we're in a clear space without attachments, we're able to work through those patterns and those things that would have come along with our picture before the picture comes. And then when the picture comes, we have no problems. In other words, what we asked for is really what we get. No surprises, no hidden blow-ups, none of those things that sometimes come that, oh, well, wow, I didn't ask for this. Well, this comes with the picture because you weren't patient and you asked for this, we gave it to you. Now you can work through the pattern after what your creation was has shown up. Basically, by taking a good look at this, you can go either way you want. You can do whatever works for you now. And if you get off your back, you will discover that by working with the whole, you will see that a very unique thing has happened. That by the time your picture actually gets here, if you were patient and you worked on yourself, just kind of taking the little bits and pieces as they came along, seeing how your habit or your habitual patterns were, by the time your creation gets here, it is a perfectly flowing piece of love. And you also picked up several habits that would have not made it a perfect picture when it transpired, because you were working with that in present time as all of these things came up that you said weren't the perfect picture. Patience and the universe work together. When you find yourself getting annoyed that your creation isn't showing up, have patience. Pay attention to the obvious. Pay attention to why your picture is not showing up, and you will discover that you can eliminate that concept or that old picture of the past so that when your new picture of your creation actually shows up, the old habit of saying, well, this didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, won't be there. What you will be saying is, wow, this did turn out exactly almost the way that I wanted to. And the beauty is that the time that it took to actually get here gave me time to get rid of old patterns and old habits that maybe would have accompanied this beautiful new picture and not quite given me the same manifestation that I was looking for. In retrospect, by being a little patient, and by being aware of the obvious, and by staying in the moment in time, and knowing that it is never outside of yourself, you were able to actually have more of a picture of completion and perfection than what actually was there in the first place. Because the universe in you, the whole or the space, knew that you were trying to really create something sincerely. And it also knew that it was going to help you get this picture. And it was going to teach you patience, because it knew that it could not put the universe together any faster than it had. And as such, it also knew that if it didn't produce it to the degree that you were expecting it to, and it knew that you were really on it and trying to grow, it also knew that you would patiently take your time, and even though you raised your voice or you got into a little anger, you would notice that from these aspects you had broken out of old patterns like, well, if it didn't come instantaneously, then the universe had something else in mind within the forming of the pattern, which allowed you to just sort of hang back and see that these things that you thought were problems, that this wasn't coming quick enough and that wasn't coming quick enough, were just really sort of impatient things within inside of you that you have now learned and saw and gotten a handle on, and then started to eliminate from your personality, like, wow, I don't need this anymore. I don't have to have this struggle anymore to get what I want. I can have all of this without the struggle. I can have all of this just by being who it is that I am. I can have all of this just by being a loving person and sharing all of this beauty. And so what if it doesn't instantaneously show up? What it has showed me during each one of these little instants that I am growing from is that I can see the beauty of the perfection of this thought as it is laid out before me. And so these are all of the things that I have learned from this tape, and I have gotten to share it with you. So that as you demand things, and as you look for things, and as you expect things, they're there, and they're manifesting. But sometimes you need to be a little patient as they come about. Within this patience is the lesson of taking care of the things that are not happening, with joy, with peace, knowing that the end result is coming. It may not be in your framework. That's why we have to learn how to take the future off of what we are doing. Because when we demand certain lengths of time that it happen in, we are demanding that the universe fulfill what we need. And it will if we are powerful enough of being, but sometimes we get more than what we had asked for, and sometimes it is not what we were looking for. And so I have learned a great deal about projecting into the future what I really want. Sure, I can stay with my thought because that's my creative divinity, and the thought is, I want to get these tapes out. Good enough. Get the time barriers down. You know when you would like to project it, but you also know that every moment in time is every moment in time. And you don't want to miss those or not see what is going on in this moment because you've got this outrageous picture that something has to be done at a certain length of time and in a certain way in the future so that it fits your pictures. Think about that for a moment.